This is the Ordinary Badass podcast with me, Atane O'Kane. In this episode, I talked to Michelle from the Sunshine Project about leaving a corporate job to teach laughter for a living. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the second episode of the Ordinary Badass podcast with me, Atane O'Kane. And today I am speaking with the lovely and talented Michelle Major. Hello, Michelle.
Hello, thank you for that lovely
intro. I'm hoping we have a little bit of a sound challenge today, but I'm hoping that everybody can hear Michelle. I'm going to just do a little bit of an intro first, and then we'll get to chatting. So I met Michelle about 5 years ago. About 5 years ago. And Michelle runs her own business, the Sunshine Project. Is that right, Michelle? Here in Northern Ireland. And I attended one of her trainings to become a laughter yoga leader. And I really enjoyed it. And we hit it off really well. I think we probably knew of each other before that, because we both work in the well-being industry, and I probably knew about you before I actually met you. But it was really, I think it was a real meeting of minds. Sure. And then we ended up conceiving our boys within weeks of each other.
I think we were just pregnant at that training, but neither of us knew.
I think that's true. Yeah. So we went through the joys of pregnancy together. You beat me by a week.
Yeah.
And our boys, we're getting to watch them grow together, which is just lovely.
Yeah.
So Michelle, I've invited you to have this chat because I really admire what you do, and I also know you on a personal level as a friend, and I admire you as a friend. And I think you're a great embodiment of what I hope people will get from this podcast, which is somebody who teaches people to feel more present, to be more happy and contented with their lives. You kind of spread joy in the world. You help people work through their problems, but you also live it. You know, what you see is what you get with you. And I'm just wondering if it would be helpful for you to maybe introduce yourself a little bit. Sure. Tell your own story about how did you get here?
Well, I was working in financial services in a very stressful corporate job for years and years. And I loved, to be honest, I really enjoyed the first part of my career. And it was really during the recession and redundancy that I started to look within rather than outside of myself. And it was during that time that I started to retrain. And I suppose through my own struggles, I brought what I learned in my teachings then to create a business, because I suppose when you go through redundancy, one thing that you really learn very quickly is that what I learned anyway was I didn't want to put my destiny in somebody else's hands. So I wanted to create my own life on my own terms. I didn't really know what that looked like, and I didn't really know how that was going to pan out, but I just had a huge burning desire to do that for myself. So any of the courses that I did originally, any of the therapy that I did was all for myself first and foremost. And then there was a sense of, I want to share this with the world to help other people, so that perhaps they don't have to go through what I went through to the same degree, to live a more kind of balanced life. And I suppose that was the thing. My life was very out of balance. Like, I was working really long hours, I was earning lots of money, but I'd no fun in my life. I didn't, my health was really poor at the time, so I had health struggles. So yeah, it was really about, for me, trying to create balance and then help other people along the way as well.
What did that look like? So how did you go from living quite a traditional lifestyle that most of us can relate to? And I actually very much relate to that story because I had something similar happen to me where for years I was not in the rat race because I chose to work in the community voluntary sector and to work for charities, but there was still this real drive. You know, I worked a lot. It was about climbing the ladder, getting promotions, you know, get the mortgage, get the partner, have the cars on the driveway. It was very focused on material
Yeah.
success, on status, feeling like I was good enough.
Yeah.
And I was in a situation where I landed what I thought was my dream job,
Mm-hmm.
and I did it for 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
and it was very intense. I had to work very hard. I probably worked way too hard. And then out of the blue, funding uh, changed, and I was told, okay, there's 2 people on this project. We now only have funding for one. You're going to move to this other project. And I didn't want to do that other project. And it was like, it didn't just upset me because I didn't want to do the other project. It upset me because I invested so much of my personality in that job. It was who I was. There was very little. And so when they rejected me, it was like the last 4 years just felt like it meant nothing. And
Yeah.
that just on a whim, people could make these decisions that completely changed my life. And I decided at that point, I was never going to let a job determine my happiness.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's,
I really relate to that.
yeah, that's kind of similar, because the job that I did for the first 9 years, like, I loved that company, and they were a very forward thinking, progressive. The culture of the company was up. They were amazing. Like, only the recession hit, I probably would still be with that company doing a very similar job. I treated that business and that job like it was my own. It felt like my baby. Like, I had invested so much time, so much energy. I always went over and above what was expected of me. So when I lost that job, I was a mess. Like, I was grieving like I've never grieved. I was so, so upset. So upset.
Mm.
And here's the thing, it was just a job. Well, now in hindsight, you can reflect back and go, for God's sake, that was just a job. But actually, I had wrapped so much meaning and so much identity in that job and in that role. All of a sudden, I didn't really know who I was outside of that job and outside of that company. And that was a
Yeah.
scary place.
I really relate to that. And I imagine a lot of people listening will actually relate to that as well, because so much of our culture is focused on that. You know, you work hard in school and then you get a job, and that is your life. It's your social life. It's where you spend most of your time.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not really encouraged to identify with the life outside of work.
Totally. Mm-hmm.
So you went through this grieving process and sought help. You realized that you needed help with that. I'm wondering, what were the aha moments for you, or who were the teachers that you really connected with, or like what helped you go from that person who felt very powerless to the person you are now, who has taken control of your own destiny?
Yeah. I think, I suppose I should add as well into the mix that I was married at the time, and my marriage ended in or around the same time as redundancy. So within 11 months, basically everything that I knew to be safe and secure just was gone. And even though it was my choice to leave the marriage, we were together a very long time. So that was another grieving process. I had a massive aha moment one evening in therapy with my therapist. And she was touching in with me, like, how are you coping with all of this? Because there's so much change. And I don't know where this wisdom came from, but out of nowhere, I said, and I meant it. I wasn't just saying it. I actually meant it. I says, I don't know why this has all happened to me, but I am just trusting that something really good is going to come of this. But I don't know what that is. But I'm
Right.
trusting that I'm going through this process for some other reason, but I've no idea what it is. But of course, what that was is what I'm doing now. Is it was a complete reinvention of self. It was a complete reinvention of my life. You know, we do go through really tough times, and for me, it's really helped me relate to other people. You know, on a personal level, because when you've been through something difficult, you can relate to other people. So I think in many ways I had to go through that to do the work that I'm doing today.
Hmm.
If that makes sense. But
Yeah.
that was a big aha moment. That was a big kind of that was a moment where I thought, I'm gonna be okay. This is all gonna be okay. It is gonna work out. But I just didn't know how it was going to work out. And I think that's the key, is to just keep moving forward and investing in yourself. And the bigger picture will eventually unfold if you keep taking wee tiny action steps.
It's okay not to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. It makes me think of J.K. Rowling's story where she said
Yeah.
that hitting bottom became the foundation for the rest of her life. Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of us do have to hit rock bottom to really kind of clear out and challenge all of the things that don't serve us.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm.
So in many ways, it was very cliche, but it was a blessing in many ways, because
Yeah.
it gave me. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now had that all not have happened.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like yourself, I was hugely materialistic. Like, I put all of my value and worth in material things,
Mm.
and as we know, that they're fleeting. Those things, whilst they're nice, they never ever will bring us fulfillment or contentment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. And I've met a lot of really miserable rich people.
yeah, yeah. So,
So a big part of what I believe in is
mhm,
that um, mindful practice, embodied
mhm,
practice, learning how to know who you are and how you feel in the moment is
yeah,
is an absolute essential thing that
mm,
people need to grasp and to get to make part of their daily life in order to really transform. You know, it doesn't
absolutely.
happen just in here.
No.
And a lot of your work is about mindfulness and helping people become embodied and to feel themselves and to feel their feelings and to feel joy a lot of the time.
Yes. Hmm.
And I'm wondering, like, what helped you figure that out? Was that something that you did naturally? Was that something you had to learn?
I had to learn it, yeah. It actually was. Um, it was a really good friend at the time, Jackie Ingram. She had went to London to do her laughter yoga leader training, and everyone said to her, "Oh God, Jackie, you've got this incredible laugh. You should be a laughter therapist." So she came home and Googled it and found laughter yoga. So at that time, I'm feeling pretty shit about myself, pretty shit about my life. Jackie's flew back and she's like, "Oh my God, you have to come to this laughter class, Michelle. I think it'll really help you." So part of me went to support her. I
Mm.
was curious as well. I suppose I was a bit skeptical. And that really started me on the whole laughter yoga journey, which is exactly what you're talking about.
Mhm.
So when I went to her class and experienced it, I was still going through shit. Like, I had still a lot of stuff to sort out. But during the class, this busyness in my mind, the thoughts completely, like, I wasn't thinking about anything for the first time in such a long time. And like what you were saying, I was in the moment, I was in my body.
Mhm.
Um, but more than that, I felt joy. I felt
Mhm.
real, like natural joy. Yeah. And it was amazing. So that was the laughter yoga journey. At that point I knew that was going to be a big part of my life, and I felt like I'd let go of loads of stuff, so my body felt lighter.
Right.
So on talking therapy, you know, that we can talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and release. But as you say, it's the body never forgets. So there was a big release that evening, and I kind of flew myself home. I felt that light.
Mm-hmm.
That laughter yoga has been a huge part of my mindfulness journey and joy.
Yeah. For me, yeah, yoga practice, meditating, dancing. Dancing was a huge thing for me. And finding a teacher who put psychology together with dance, the psychology of trauma, the psychology of fear with movement, that really worked for me, because I couldn't rationalize it. I couldn't think myself into a million different scenarios. I just had to move. And sometimes I felt like screaming with rage. Sometimes I felt like crying with sorrow. And sometimes I felt like jumping for joy. And what I learned was I can be all of those things. Yeah, there's not just one way to be. And the secret to happiness is not always being happy or pretending to be positive, but seeking out joy in your life, and knowing that when you're not feeling joyful, you can handle that. You can do it.
And it's okay. And it's so okay.
Yeah.
I think that's a big misconception, actually, with this whole personal development field, is this clappy, happy, you know, be positive thinking, la 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 la. And it's not real life. It's not keeping it real and being realistic. And I remember way back at the start, nearly like beating myself up even more for thinking a negative thought. Oh, you're Miss Sunshine, you know, you should be thinking these negative thoughts. But like, you know, that was such a bullshit limiting belief. It's not real. That is not real life.
And if you have that rule for yourself, you're going to fail 100% of the time.
Oh, every day.
Yeah.
The big stick will be out every day. Yeah.
What I love about you is that your work is very positive. You know, it's the Sunshine Project. You teach people how to laugh, but you are really real in it. So you, especially on your social media, you talk about the hard times. You talk about when you're really struggling. You talk about when you're pissed off, and when you're doubting yourself, and so you're giving everybody else permission.
Yeah. And I think that's part of being authentic as well, isn't it? And I think sometimes that's the flipping hardest part, isn't it? Being real to ourselves, being honest with ourselves, where we're at in our lives, how we're actually feeling, and being honest about that.
Yeah. So what helped you with that? What helped you get more honest to move into a place where you were starting to live more authentically?
Again, difficult times. Do you know what it was? Do you know when I really found my voice as a woman? It was through rage, if I'm honest, and injustice, and sexism, and inequality. And it actually was having Sonny. It actually, I would say, becoming a mother really made me step into my true authentic self. I thought I was authentic before, but this just took it up a level, and I think it was breastfeeding, to be honest, and it was the huge inequality and sexism that I experienced as a breastfeeding mother from society. And it was that, coupled with another couple of things that really got me to find my voice. I think more authentic and be more real. What
Yeah.
about you?
Yeah, I think that's true. My own path of personal development is a long one, a long and windy, circuitous one. I've probably been doing it most of my life. But the last 10 years have been like very intentional work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like you, I thought I got it until I had something bigger than me.
Yeah.
So having a child, the pure physicality of that, the pure immediacy of that. Also, I suppose I'm a recovering tough guy. You know, I used to go through the world thinking I could do everything and I could take care of myself and I didn't need anybody. And actually, whenever I had a child, I was at my most vulnerable place I've ever been in my life, especially that first couple of years. I had quite a traumatic birth. I was recovering from a C-section. I was breastfeeding. I was incredibly vulnerable. And it made me realize just how important it was to be real, how important it was to be in the moment and to meet my needs, my immediate needs, because if I wasn't meeting my immediate needs, I wasn't meeting my child's immediate needs. So self-care took on a whole different meaning than bubble baths and spa days.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was literally survival. Then there were some days that felt like I was just surviving.
Yeah.
And it also taught me that I really needed to reach out. I wasn't an island.
Yeah.
I needed to be deeply, intimately connected with my tribe, with the people who cared for me, who I could talk to about not feeling good enough, who I could be real with, who I could have a good cry with. And, you know, I don't think I really valued a tribe of women friends before I had my child as much as I do now. It's so essential to me. My female friends are what keep me going. Women who have done it. And I think, you know, in our culture, we've lost that village. And mothers suffer the most from that. Because it is such an isolated place to be when you are holding that baby and it looks like the world is just passing you by.
Also you're seeing images of the like perfect moms all over the world in their lovely skinny jeans and looking like they've just stepped out of a salon, and you know you've got all of these extra pressures as well, which is not real life, but somehow people think it is. You know, this comparison trap that a lot of people fall into, it's toxic, really toxic, and not real life. So you need your tribe.
Definitely. Yeah. So, you know, part of it is just being able to know who you are and what you want, and to know that you deserve that. And that was a real challenge for me because I had spent so much of my life forging on my own, and that was a big part of my identity, that I was very independent and very strong and I could handle anything, and to watch that crumble very quickly was terrifying, but also such a relief. It was such a relief to realize I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to do it all. I don't have to do it all. Half-assed is good enough. My standards have lowered significantly, and also my sense of humor has raised dramatically. It's like, is anybody dying? No. Well, okay. It's another disaster. Isn't this great?
Oh, the joy. But yeah, you can't take life too seriously. Sure you can't.
No. So I'm wondering, for you, now that you do this as a job, is how has that changed things? So you went on a personal journey, but then you turned it into a business.
I did.
How did that happen? What was that process like?
That process was slow. It was a slow process, but I didn't know what the business was going to be called. I didn't know what the business was going to look like. Um, but I had a vision that I wanted to help people in some capacity. Personal development, that was kind of the vision. So yeah, I'd taken another job in financial services, and the vision or the idea was to just keep retraining. So I did a number of courses. Over, I suppose the first course I did was 2005, and I registered my business in 2011. So from that period, I was doing lots of different courses. But more than that, I was working on myself. So I was in and out of therapy, doing lots of self-care, doing lots of healing, lots of self stuff, really, working on myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I started off actually doing meditation classes in my back living room at home. So that's how it started. And I just asked people to donate whatever they could afford. It started off really slow. And then there was a local charity that rescued dogs and cats from pounds, because I didn't realise that when dogs and cats are rescued, they're only kept for like 7 days and then they're destroyed. So this lady rescued them from being put down. So yeah, so I donated some money to her, and then that kind of evolved to, I did the odd wee workshop again from home. So yes, so then I got my first gig, and that was 2011. And I was still working full time, and I was doing the business part time, evenings and weekends. And then kind of got to the point where, not that I had to make a decision, but I was getting frustrated. I was getting really frustrated because I wanted to do it full time, but the income wasn't there yet to actually take that leap of faith. So I went to a business coach, and I worked with him on these limiting beliefs. And what he said, so I said to him, maybe I should ask my boss to go part-time. Because if I went part-time, then, I could work at my business part-time and still have a steady income. And what he said to me was, if you went out to a desert island and you had a boat, you would have a way off that desert island. You would have the boat to get you off the desert island. But if you go to the desert island and you don't have a boat, but you have the materials to build the boat, you're much more likely to build the boat to escape. If that I think it was something like that. Now, I'm not saying this is for everybody to actually do what I did, but I kind of jumped in 2 feet first. So I handed in my notice and I left. I went down to a 4-day week and used the rest of my holidays and worked in the business a little bit more. But it was a huge leap of faith, like huge. I'm not saying that's for everybody, because for some people, I think it might work really well to do the part-time steady income and then the part-time business. But me, I'm a kind of all or nothing type of person. So if I'm in a situation where it's like make or break, I will pull out all the stops to make it work, if that makes sense. So
yeah. And what did that feel like when you handed in your notice and then suddenly realized you were on a desert island with just the materials?
So scary, petrifying. Like, I made a conscious decision not to tell anyone, or only to tell a few selected people that would champion me, because I knew most people would say, you are mental. Like, you're giving up a good job, a pension, a company car, a Christmas bonus, like a job for life. You're mental. Like, why would you do this? And nobody had heard of laughter yoga. So like, I was giving this all up to laugh for a living, like crazy stuff. So So yeah, I was shitting myself.
Mm.
It was really scary, but it was hugely liberating.
Yeah, I did the exact same thing. So I decided after I lost that job, that dream job, I was like, that's it. I'm never ever gonna uh, wrap my identity up in a job. I'm never ever gonna derive my happiness from a job. And ultimately, I don't really want to be. I don't want to have someone control my destiny. And so I need to figure out what my skills are so that I can go anywhere
Mm-hmm.
and be okay. And at the time, the dream was to travel around the world and live in tropical places. And that didn't work out. But what I started to do was go, okay, what are my skills? And how do I turn that into a career? And so I started training up. And I made that decision around 2009. And in 2012, I was working, um, good job, easy work, uh, nice people. I could have kept going, and I
Mm-hmm.
just thought, no, I'm spinning my wheels here. This is not what I said I was going to do. And so I handed in my notice, and everybody in the office said, "You are insane. What are you going to do?" And I said, "I don't know." And you don't have a job to go to? Nope. And they were all like, that is crazy. You are the craziest person I've ever met in my life. And then as the month progressed, people started cornering me in the stairwell, or when we were alone in the lift, or in the tea room making tea. And they would just sort of sidle up to me and say, I am so jealous. I wish I could get out of here. I feel like I don't even know how to make a decision for myself anymore. I feel like I've been just so broken by this that I just don't, I like, ugh, but I have a mortgage and I have kids and I have this excuse and I have that excuse. And I'm like, I'm just the same as you are. If I can do it, you can do it. If this is not what you want to live your life doing, hand your notice in, jump and the net will find you, as they say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I left, and then I went into a suicidal depression for about 2 weeks. Just like, I have made the biggest mistake of my life. Who allowed me to do this? I'm just such a fraud. I don't know what I'm talking about. How can I possibly help other people with their mental health and their lives when my life is a mess? I've just given up a job. Oh my God. And went through this real period of angst because I was doing something that didn't have a script. There was nothing around me that told me how to deal with that kind of situation, and I was literally winging it.
Yeah.
And so what I did was I reached out,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the one thing I've learned. When I try to do things in isolation, I struggle and I suffer and I tell myself negative thoughts and I limit myself. When I ask for help from the people who know me, they lift me up.
Yeah.
And so I went to my friends and to my community and said, I'm telling myself all these horrible things. I'm making myself really depressed. I'm feeling hopeless. I'm scared. I'm being grumpy with people. I'm having fights with people. Like, help. And within 24 hours, I had 5 or 6 people saying, I'll talk to you on the phone. Come have a coffee. We'll get through this. You're amazing. You'll be fine. If you put as much effort into running your business and helping people as you did working for other people, this is going to work, but it's going to be slow. And for me, it was really slow. My first year in business, I think I had maybe 3 clients, and I had to do part-time work that I didn't really believe in, in consultancy, with my old work, which was a lifesaver. But it was kind of like a hybrid then. It was like, okay, I'm willing to make some sacrifices. But I think quite often people who do this kind of work, because we've gotten to that stage where we now are very confident about what we do. We do have our group of people that want to work with us. We do have some sort of reputation. We almost look unattainable. People look at us and think we have some sort of special skill or some sort of superhuman strength. and it's hard to relate to us, you know, because we look like we have our shit together and like, wow, that's amazing, but I could never do that. And actually,
Yeah.
what I want people to do is pull the curtain back and see that we also don't know what we're doing. We also trial and error, and I've made lots of mistakes. I've you know, I've built websites that didn't go anywhere. I have run events that not enough people signed up to. I've done all those things and I learned from them. And I think what you said at the beginning, when you said you were in your therapist's office and you were saying, you know, life is really shit, but I'm using this to, I choose hope.
Mm-hmm.
I choose to be hopeful about it. I'm not going to let this beat me. I'm going to use it as a learning tool, and I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to keep moving into action. And that's such a key skill, you know, like we don't learn and we don't change and we don't grow if we're not moving forward. So I just kept moving forward. And if you keep doing something,
Anything,
anything, eventually you get somewhere, you know?
I think tiny steps is the key, you know, because as you say, people look at, you know, if you change the direction of your life quite drastically, people think, oh wow, you know, how did they do that? But what they don't actually see is all of the tiny wee baby steps that was taken for years, like years and years to get to that point.
Yeah.
And it's worth it. Like it really is. If you take a wee tiny step every day, at the end of the year, you've made a huge change. So yeah, baby steps all the way.
Yeah. So your business now looks very different than when you know, that initial kind of thought in your head, or is it exactly what you envisioned?
Yeah, it has evolved. It definitely has evolved over the years because I've evolved and I've changed. So like your business is part of you. So the more that you grow and the more that you change, that will naturally automatically happen within your business. The laughter is certainly at the heart and soul of it. But also is the movement part, the body part that we talked about at the start. So my business has progressed now. I do various different courses and things, but that part of being embodied is a huge part of what I do, because it's so important. The body never forgets. You can cognitively understand something, but it's actually getting it into the body. That's the important part.
Given your own journey, and now that you have turned this into your living, for people who are listening to us talk and listening to this podcast and are at the beginning of their journey, so perhaps they've come across this because they're Googling anxiety or stress at work or depression or relationship problems or stuck in a rut or whatever. Those people who they know there's something wrong, but they haven't got those tools yet. What advice would you give them?
I would say just do it. I would say that's probably been in every area of my life where I wanted to change something. Doing it before you know how to do it, or you know how you've figured it all out, just do it anyway. Like I would put things out there before even they're ready to go out there, if that makes sense. And I would figure it out along the way. So just be prepared to get out of your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
Get out of your comfort zone, feel that icky uncomfortableness, and just do it anyway, because that's how you're going to learn, that's how you're going to grow. And don't be afraid of failure. Yeah. Like that's actually part of being really successful, is failing lots and lots and lots of times. Don't be afraid of it. Get a good solid tribe of people who have your back, that will catch you if you fall and when you fall, and will big you up when the times are tough. And invest in yourself. Like I think that's key. because nothing else can grow. Our relationships can't grow, our health can't improve, our finances can't shift unless we shift ourselves, unless we make some sort of internal shift within ourselves. And sometimes that takes a little bit of support and help as well. So invest in yourself in whatever way that looks like.
Don't think you need to do it on your own.
Exactly, yeah.
Get the help you need. Know who you are and what it is you want. And then just go for it. You don't need to have it all figured out.
No, because here's the thing, you'll never ever have it all figured out. There's always going to be someone out there doing whatever you want to do better at it. That's just life. So the only way you can improve yourself is to just get out there and do it. It's like what you were saying, Etienne, about when you left your job, you were thinking, oh my God, how can I help people with mental health? How can I be this person to help other people when I'm struggling? You just have to get out and do it, because there's always going to
be self-doubt. Yeah,
there's always going to be self-doubt, but there's also always going to be someone that is a little bit ahead of you, doing what you want to do.
Yes.
And if you let the self-doubt rule you, you'll never do it. Ever. You get into that comparison trap.
Yeah.
Which is so limiting and so toxic.
Yes. So. Yeah, and that was a big part for me, because I wasn't comparing myself to people who were starting out. I was comparing myself to people who had been doing it for years.
Exactly.
And were so polished and so professional, and had books and hundreds of thousands of people following them on social media. And I was creating this huge mountain of inadequacy, because I'm not Byron Katie. I am not Brad Blanton. I am not these people that are like, have been doing this for decades and decades and decades, but I can do my thing. And that was a real liberating moment for me in terms of freeing myself, was saying it's okay to fuck up. That's the invisible byline in my business and life. And to how I do it is unique. How I show up in the room is unique. How I have pulled all of that knowledge together is my particular take on all of that knowledge. And there is somebody out there that's really going to respond to that. And it's okay if there's only 5 people in a room in Belfast or in your living room. After I qualified as a yoga teacher, I literally taught people one-to-one in my living room for a long time, because I didn't have the confidence to stand in front of a class. And that's okay, because the people who stood in my living room still enjoyed what they were doing. They were still happy with that, and maybe even preferred it. So rather than seeing that as a weakness, I gave myself permission to just show up and do my best and to enjoy what I was doing.
And here's the thing as well with Byron Katie and all of those other amazing people and authors, and they all started off somewhere too. They all, they had to start off somewhere, and I'm sure they were at the start of their journey thinking those very same thoughts, those very same beliefs, and had those very same fears. So I think it's acknowledging that we're actually all the same at our heart and our core.
Yeah. And our greatest strength is to be able to admit that and see that as a good thing. So this project that I'm working on is called Ordinary Badass. And I called it that because I really believe that people are most powerful when they are applying these types of principles in their just ordinary everyday life. And you are a person that I think does that really well. So I'm ending all my podcasts with a question. Do you think you are an ordinary badass? And what does that mean? Yeah. And what does that mean to you?
That is a great question. What does that mean to me? That means showing up every day, being conscious in my behavior, being aware of my behavior. I think part of it is parenting, and I think parenting really teaches you how to become more mindful. Um, so yeah, conscious parenting is part of being a badass. Saying no sometimes is part of being a badass.
Yeah.
Even when
Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, pushing back, creating new boundaries, saying fuck it. That's part of being a badass. Fuck it when things don't work out, or you're making a big thing out of something in your head, just letting it go and just saying, you know what, fuck it. Just fuck it. It doesn't really matter. And the whole things that actually does not matter. Living my life in accordance to what in accordance to my values. So being congruent is really important.
Yeah.
So that my values and everything, every area of my life is I'm walking the walk and I'm talking the talk. And if I fuck up, that's okay. I'll just get back on the surfboard tomorrow. So being gentler with myself, quietening the inner critic.
Yeah.
I think being a badass as well is not giving yourself a hard time.
Yeah.
When you do make mistakes and knowing that that's part of life.
That's absolutely you. If you're not making mistakes, you're not living, right?
Yeah.
And it's all about integrity. Do my thoughts and feelings and behavior match up? Do my values and my behavior match up? Am I trying to be the best version of me without pretending or hiding?
Yeah, showing up every day and being okay with being seen. So the real me being seen. I says that all sounds dead easy, but it's not.
No, it's not. It's not. And sometimes it's a lifelong journey. In fact, I think it is always a lifelong journey. I'm learning every day, and will continue to learn. I don't have all the answers. In fact, the more I do this work, the more I realize I have no answers. And actually, that's kind of fun. I don't need to have the answers. I just need to show up, as you say.
Yeah. So what does it mean to you to be a badass?
Very similar, I think. I suppose, yeah, a lot of it is challenging my own ideas, challenging my own assumptions, challenging that inner critic and saying thank you, but no thank you. Being kind to all of the parts of me, especially the bits that I like the least, or that I have disowned for a long time, and just becoming friends with those parts that I used to beat up. Being humble, but also brave. A big part of my ability to love is showing up as vulnerable, and that actually is a superpower. To be willing to be vulnerable. I was afraid of vulnerability for a long, long time. I had to be perfect and strong, and and people didn't see my vulnerabilities. People weren't soft with me because I wasn't being soft with me, and I wasn't being soft with other people either. So learning vulnerability was a huge gift, to be able to cry, or admit that I was scared, or ask for a hug, or say I don't know what I'm doing. Like, that actually makes me feel incredibly powerful, because I can stand in that feeling and it's not going to knock me down. It's not going to destroy anything. It's just like, oh, okay, this is what's happening now. That is really badass, that you can feel something and it's not the end of the world, because it means you can handle anything. I now truly believe I can handle anything. Yeah. And my gift, I hope, to the world is that I teach people that they can do that too. It's not a unique trait. It's just about applying those skills.
I love the vulnerability part you talked about. That's so true and so beautiful.
Hmm.
Takes a lot of courage.
It does. It does. And yet the cost of not being courageous, I could never go back there again. I don't know about you, but I look at my old life and I just think, oh, what a prison. That
Terrible.
was hard work. That was
Yeah,
way harder
yeah,
than doing what I
yeah.
do now.
Totally.
Yeah.
Million percent. Million
Hmm.
percent.
So I
Mhm.
think we've come to a natural ending. And I just want to say that I really appreciate you for the work that you do. And I appreciate you for being my friend. I really love you and I think you're amazing.
Right.
And I know the challenges you've been through and you just keep coming back and you just keep standing on the surfboard. And I really, I really do consider you one of the ordinary badasses in my life.
High five, sister.
Woo! So, do you have any other comments or questions before
No,
we?
just to thank you for inviting me on today for this very open conversation, and I hope it inspires other people to perhaps make some positive changes in their life in some way. And thank you. It's I feel like in some ways we've lived this very kind of parallel life, haven't we? We've kind
Yeah.
of through a lot of similar life experiences and come out the other end. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
And if people want to find out about your work or to work with you, where should we send them?
You can go to my Facebook page, which is the Sunshine Project, or the website is thesunshineproject.co.uk.
Great. Okay. So thank you, Michelle. And thank you to everybody who's been listening. And that's all from me.
If you enjoyed this podcast, head over to ordinarybadass.com and get more inspiration. Sign up for my webinars and courses and continue the conversation by joining our Ordinary Badass community.